When an avoidant woman betrays you, her life starts falling apart. What happens when an avoidant woman betrays the person who genuinely loved her? At first, she may look completely fine, as if walking away was the easiest decision she ever made. She may act confident, distracted, and even relieved that the relationship is finally over. But what you cannot always see is what happens inside her once the silence becomes permanent. An avoidant person often protects themselves from emotional discomfort by creating distance. When intimacy becomes overwhelming, they may suppress their feelings instead of confronting them. They may convince themselves that leaving is better than staying and dealing with difficult emotions. And when betrayal enters the relationship, that emotional escape can become even more complicated. She may initially believe that she has simply removed a problem from her life. She might tell herself that you were too demanding, too emotional, or too difficult to understand. She may focus on everything that was wrong with the relationship instead of remembering what was good. This is one way emotional distance can make a painful decision feel easier in the beginning. But eventually, reality becomes harder to avoid. The person she betrayed may stop chasing her, stop explaining himself, and stop asking for another chance. And suddenly, the emotional safety she once took for granted is no longer available. That is when the silence can begin to feel very different. She may start wondering why you are no longer reacting to her. She may notice that you are not sending emotional messages or trying to repair everything. Your absence can become more noticeable because there is no longer a familiar source of attention. What she once considered emotional pressure may suddenly feel like emotional loss. And this is where consequences begin to appear. Not because the universe is punishing her, but because every choice creates emotional consequences. When someone repeatedly avoids accountability, unresolved emotions do not simply disappear. They often remain underneath the surface until another situation brings them back. She may enter another relationship believing that everything will finally be different. But if she has not confronted the reasons behind her behavior, the same patterns can follow her. The new relationship may eventually trigger the same fears, defenses, and emotional distancing. The problem was never simply the previous partner. This is an important truth many people overlook. Changing partners does not automatically change emotional patterns. If betrayal was used as an escape from discomfort, another relationship may eventually create similar discomfort. And when that happens, she may realize that running away never actually solved the deeper problem. She may also begin comparing the new person with the person she lost. At first, the new relationship can feel exciting because there is no emotional history attached to it. There are fewer expectations, fewer difficult conversations, and less vulnerability in the beginning. But eventually, genuine intimacy requires emotional honesty from both people. That is when comparisons can become painful. She may remember how you supported her when she was struggling. She may remember the patience you showed when she was emotionally unavailable. She may remember the moments when you stayed, even though she was pushing you away. And sometimes, the hardest realization is understanding what she lost only after losing access to it. You may have given her something she did not fully appreciate while she had it. You may have offered consistency, patience, affection, and emotional security. Those things can feel ordinary until they are suddenly gone. But do not mistake this for a reason to wait for her downfall. Your healing should never depend on watching her life collapse. The real victory is reaching a point where her choices no longer control your emotional state. You stop asking whether she regrets hurting you and start asking whether you respect yourself again. Because betrayal can make you question your own value. You may wonder whether you were not attractive enough, interesting enough, or loving enough. You may replay conversations and search for the moment when everything supposedly went wrong. But another person's decision to betray you does not define your worth. If she eventually feels regret, that is something she must process herself. If she experiences loneliness, that is something she must learn from herself. If she realizes that she destroyed something valuable, she must carry that realization herself. You do not need to rescue her from consequences that came from her own choices. And this is where your story can change completely. Instead of waiting for an avoidant woman to come back, you can begin becoming emotionally unavailable to the chaos. Instead of proving that you are worthy of loyalty, you can choose people who already understand loyalty. Instead of chasing closure, you can create closure through your own decisions. Sometimes the most powerful response to betrayal is not revenge. It is rebuilding the life you almost abandoned while trying to save the relationship. You start sleeping peacefully again, focusing on your goals, reconnecting with yourself, and protecting your boundaries. Little by little, the person who betrayed you becomes less important than the person you are becoming. And if she ever looks back, she may see something she never expected. She may see that you did not remain broken because of what she did. She may see that you learned from the experience and became stronger without becoming bitter. And that realization can be far more powerful than any attempt to make her suffer. Because eventually, every person has to live with the emotional patterns they refuse to confront. Avoidance can postpone discomfort, but it cannot permanently erase it. Betrayal can end a relationship, but it cannot erase responsibility for what happened. And losing someone who genuinely loved you can become a painful lesson when you finally understand their value. So if an avoidant woman betrayed you, do not spend your life waiting for her life to fall apart. Let her choices belong to her, while your future belongs to you. You do not need her regret to validate your pain. You do not need her return to prove that you mattered. And you certainly do not need her suffering to prove that you won. Your real victory begins when you stop looking backward. Because sometimes the person you thought you could never live without becomes the person you are most grateful you survived. And sometimes losing someone is not the end of your peace. Sometimes it is the beginning of finally choosing yourself.